Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Tuesday cannot come fast enough. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. A poll by CBS News says 82% of Americans are disgusted. That's the word they use. Disgusted with the presidential campaign. Just 13% are excited by it. Who are those people? Pretty much everyone I know can't wait till the whole thing's over. Yes, there's a lot at stake, but all the negativity has not been good for the country.
Hillary Clinton is engaged in far-reaching criminal conduct and in an equally far-reaching criminal cover-up, including the destruction of 33,000 emails after receiving, can you imagine? Can you imagine if I did that? Oh, that alone is big problems, for which she got away with murder. Honestly, she has no right to be running.
Just a few days ago, Donald Trump was endorsed by the official newspaper of the Ku Klux Klan. They wrote their endorsement under the slogan of his campaign, "Make America Great Again." They said it's about preserving white identity, and they've placed their faith and hope in him.
Now, to be fair, Donald Trump has nothing to do with the Ku Klux Klan, and Hillary Clinton has not been charged with anything yet. Now, there is a tradition of nasty presidential campaigns in America going all the way back to John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson. But in this hyper-computer age where internet smears dominate the discourse, critical mass has now been reached. There's no question both candidates despise each other and that many Americans are angry about the state of their country. All of that negative emotion can be very destructive. Talking Points has tried to cover the campaigns in a fair way, and I believe we have succeeded. We do not cheap shot the candidates, but we do not shy away from telling you the truth about them. My analysis of the recent Al Smith dinner here in New York City is a good example of that. For those of you who watch this program, you know what we believe, and that is that many far-left policies are damaging the country, and that the Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, is embracing some of those policies. My problem with Mrs. Clinton is twofold. She's not candid in her assessment of herself, and she has veered sharply to the left. If Americans allow her to nominate a Supreme Court justice, things could get very intense for this country. On the other side, Donald Trump, who has been accessible to us, is not experienced in dealing with complicated geopolitical matters. If elected, he would have to rely heavily on advisors, and we do not know whether Mr. Trump would listen to them or not. So at this point, whoever is elected president will enter the office as the most unpopular victor in history. There's simply too much bitterness for it to evaporate in a matter of weeks. Talking Points respects sincerely held beliefs, even those that go against my conscience. But we are not seeing that kind of respect in this campaign, are we? Here's a vivid example. Last week, the Catholic Diocese of Rockville Center, where I live on Long Island, issued a very heartfelt letter on abortion. While the bishop did not take a political side, he clearly states that anyone who would support taking the life of a late-term baby for anything other than the life of the mother is participating in a grave injustice. The bishop and every other cleric in this country have a perfect right to state that position without being attacked or scorned. Hillary Clinton's position is that any late-term abortion should be acceptable if the mother's health is in some kind of jeopardy. But as we all know, health could mean anything, which is why there are laws against late-term abortion. And Mrs. Clinton's position is extreme, but has gone relatively unnoticed. Finally, we never endorse candidates here. We never tell you for whom to vote. We also understand that this campaign has been awful for the spirit of the nation. There's no question about it. And that's the memo. Now for the top story covering the final days of the campaign. Join us from Washington, Brett Baer. So a lot of people have questions about the process. So we're going to be here Sunday night live. You're going to be live Sunday night. You're not allowed to go home now until Wednesday. Is that right? You have to stay
stuck.
there. Yeah, you have to.
I'm in New York starting tomorrow.
That means I'm going to leave then. No. I'll be here Sunday night and Monday night. I'll do a little something on Election Day. But that's your, and Kelly, you guys take it. So let's start with exit polling. All right, Fox News has a big operation, right, in selected states. We can't be in every state, but we have we're pinpointing certain states. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's the key battleground states, and we have exit polling, which we will be monitoring throughout the day, but it is sequestered. In other words, we have people, a team with the networks that have agreed that it will be private information about the exit polls. And remember, these are polls taken when voters exit the polling booths.
Okay, let me stop you there.
And then they tell them or don't.
So this is an agreement. There's not a law that says we can't report it when we get it. It's just an agreement. All the networks do this. All the radio stations do this. They all agree not to let it out until the polls close. Is that it?
Yeah, it's a consortium, and you can't use the information until the polls close.
But you say can't. It's not illegal if you did. If you went rogue and decided to do it, you wouldn't be prosecuted or anything, would you?
No, it's an agreement that everybody agrees to. I mean, it's not.
So the people that actually canvass, they're standing outside certain polling places that are designated, and they ask people. And if they don't want to participate, people don't have to. It's a voluntary thing. Who did you vote for? Why did you vote that way? Blah, 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 blah. Then that gets sent, I guess, by email or something to election headquarters here in New York City, correct?
Right, and where there is a sequestered group from each one of the networks and the major media organizations, and they get that data, they compile it, they look at the different aspects of it, who is Republican, who's Democrat, which way did they vote, and where their demographics fall. And they come up with
we do our
list.
own, and CBS does its own. We don't share, right? We have our own, they have their own, right?
The data is the same, but we do it ourselves, at Fox.
Okay. So do you, Brett Baier, during the day, do they tell you this is the trend in Florida at 2 p.m.? Do they give you updates?
Not throughout the day. We have a 5 p.m. Meeting in which they then come back from this sequestered area and we debrief for everybody. Now, that is held until the first polls close, 7 o'clock.
All right. So even I can get that at 5 o'clock on Tuesday. I'll get that information should I go to that meeting, which I would never do.
You should, Bill. We'd love to have you.
I know you would. You'd be thrilled. But I'll send I'll send some of our guys. So by 5 o'clock, you have a pretty good idea. You, Brett Baier, whether it's going to be a cliffhanger or Pennsylvania's going to go this way or Ohio's going to go that way, correct?
You have a sense of how these states go, and you're right. If it's a big blowout, you have a better sense. Right. If it's tight, though, remember 2004, the exit polls were off. Some of them were just, the people didn't tell them the right thing that they did, or they were just skewed in some way. They didn't match the actual vote total. So what the decision desk does, Bill, is they take the exit polls from that state, then they take the raw vote total that comes in as it's coming in real time. They have programs and computer models that put them both together and say, well, looking at this vote and the exit poll, what does it mean for this county, this county, this county?
The raw vote totals, when do they start coming into the Fox News operation? The raw vote totals from
when the polls close in each state.
Okay, nothing before each state, and then it's done so electronically that it's like a bing, bing, bing comes.
Some states are better than others.
Okay. All right, so we'll talk again on Sunday night because anything could happen in this crazy campaign, and we appreciate it, Brett, very much. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Next on the rundown, Britt Hume has covered many presidential elections. We'll get his take on where this one stands right now. Then the Bush family still not supporting Donald Trump, but are they truly comfortable with Hillary Clinton as president? Those reports after these messages. Personal Story segment tonight, our pal Britt Hume has covered 11 presidential elections, so he has a pretty good feel for the process, joining us now from Washington. So what direction, right now on this Friday evening, what direction is this thing going in? Can you sense something happening?
Well, you can sense for the past several days that there's been momentum toward Donald Trump, but when you look at the polling on this, Bill, it doesn't look like his numbers have moved up very much. What has happened is that a segment of Hillary Clinton's support has collapsed. That might recover over the weekend. I think sometimes there is real movement over the last weekend before an election. But that's the story right now, is that her support is fading. He's holding. If she fades enough, he could win.
Okay. It's all about turnout then. Remember 4 years ago, the Romney campaign thought they had it. Remember that? They thought they were going to win. The internal polling they had showed him up by 3, and then he disappeared. Mitt Romney disappeared. Didn't do any national interviews, and then Superstorm Standy was in play, and that was taking a lot of the politics off the front page. And then he got thumped. Romney got thumped. Did that surprise you 4 years ago?
No, because I remember sitting on your show on election eve, and you asked me, who's going to win, and I said, I heard the briefings from both camps. And, each makes a persuasive case. And you remember what happened then, Bill, was that Romney was leading, or at least was right there, in all the national polling.
Right.
But if you went state by state through the key states, the battleground states, he was not. And what was striking about it, Bill, was that the national polling was done by these big and well-known and well-recognized polling organizations, and a lot of the state polls were done by little colleges and
local
polling organizations we didn't know much about. But they turned out to have it right. The national poll was off, and then it turned out on election day that it was off, too, that he won by more than the national polls had suggested he would in the popular vote.
But Trump's doing, and we're going to do this segment a little bit long, the same thing that Romney did. He's not appearing right now on national TV, which for him is a big departure. Now, in New Hampshire, the local poll up there, WBUR out of Boston, but that's a local poll, has Trump now either tied or winning by a little. That's a turn. Nevada, some local polls there have Trump ahead there. Arizona, Trump has surged ahead. So I'm not seeing a lot of Clinton turning around in states, but I am seeing some going over to Trump.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think basically that's the way it looks. Now, all these polls, you average them out, and they're only a couple of points either way.
Right.
And of course, you can't do a margin of error for an average of polls. But if you look at the polls themselves, the margins of error are such that, if it's plus or minus 2 or 3 or 4, that could mean a lot of different possible outcomes. Especially
if voting blocks don't turn out, like African Americans. Everybody's keeping a very close eye on them. Hispanic Americans in certain states like Colorado. So what I see now is that if Trump manages to win Florida and Ohio and North Carolina, it's a long night. If he loses any of those 3, it's a short night.
I think that's about right. And I think the one of the 3, the one where he has the greatest vulnerability is North Carolina, where the polling average, I think, shows Mrs. Clinton up a little bit. And North Carolina, of course, would be if she wins it, that's a flip, which is to say that that's a state that Mitt Romney won. And it would, and we all know that because of the structure of the states and how they voted in recent elections, that any Republican nominee, this one included, of course, has a steeper hill to climb. And Mr. Trump would have to basically run the table of all the states that that Romney won, plus the toss-up states, and even that wouldn't get him there. He'd have to pick off some states that
like
Obama
Iowa,
won.
But Iowa's
a good chance. He has a good chance in Iowa.
It's a doable scenario. Yep.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
You're right. North Carolina.
It's a long shot.
And that'll close fairly early on Tuesday night. That one will be the harbinger.
That's a good one to keep your eye on.
All right, Britt, thank you very much as always. Directly ahead, Bush family apparently not voting for Donald Trump. What about the specter of Hillary Clinton as president? Is the family okay with that? Also, California on the verge of legalizing pot, but that might hurt the minority community badly. Up ahead. Campaign 2016 segment tonight. Even though Donald Trump has closed the gap on Hillary Clinton and more Republicans are supporting Trump, some big names in the GOP still hold out. Presidents Bush the younger and elder are not supporting Trump. Governor John Kasich of Ohio has actually written in the name of John McCain in advance voting. Former presidential candidate Mitt Romney says he will not vote for either Trump or Clinton. This now here in New York City, John Meacham, author of the book Destiny and Power, The American Odyssey of George Herbert Walker Bush, which is now out in paperback. I can't imagine at this point in Hillary Clinton's political evolution, Bush the younger pulling that lever for somebody who would, as I pointed out in the Talking Points memo, abortion no matter when, for any reason. I just can't imagine it.
Well, I think it's wrong to assume that because he's most likely not voting for Trump that he's voting for Hillary.
All right, so you might leave it open or something like
write
that?
Something in. My sense is, the Bushes have been in national politics since 1952. Prescott Bush became the senator from Connecticut that year. George H.W. Bush voted for Thomas E. Dewey in 1948. They have been the architects of the universe that Trump wants to blow up. So it's sort of interesting. Why would one expect the Bushes, broadly put?
But I think it's more intense than that. I think they resented the fact that Bush attacked Jeb so vehemently and humiliated him. I think that's what the driving factor is here.
I think it's larger than larger. I think that the fact that Trump brought up the attacks of September 11th, I think that he has made a central issue of trying to take apart an entire ethos. And
the Iraq policy, that kind of thing.
And so, again, I think the Bushes get a lot of credit for a really kind of dignified silence about this. Their silence speaks
I don't know
volumes.
about that. I think it might be a divided thing. There are a lot of Republicans who are very angry about the Bushes, not because they don't like Hillary Clinton. It's not so much Trump, you got to get behind this great guy. It's we hate her. How can you ever not help get her off the stage? That's what I'm getting.
But it's not. This isn't in a vacuum, right? So if you're George Herbert Walker Bush, if you're George W. Bush, you know what it's like to be president. And they simply, I think it's safe to say, I don't think they believe that Donald Trump should be president.
But they don't believe Hillary Clinton should be president either, do they?
But I don't know exactly.
With that far left resume she's bringing in?
But we have a choice now, right, between one of the most conventionally prepared people in history and one of the least conventionally prepared. And
yes.
Trump embraces that, right?
Right.
He says if experts were so great, we wouldn't be in this problem.
He wants to blow it up.
He wants to blow it up. They built it.
They built it. Listen, I'm not criticizing the Bush family. I want everybody to know that. I think every American should vote their conscience. And if it were my brother who got slaughtered, somewhat unfairly by Donald Trump, I'd probably feel the same way. What about the French?
I don't think it's just personal, though, Bill. I really do. I really don't. I mean,
they're from Texas. Come on. They're from Texas.
No, I appreciate that.
It gets personal. And its family is everything to the Bushes. Family is everything.
But so is
loyalty.
But so is the country. George H.W. Bush has always said.
But they have a reason they can say that Trump doesn't know what he's doing and then justify the family man. What about the friendship between Bill Clinton and the elder Bush? They became pretty good buds.
They were. Yeah, it was Brokeback Mountain meets C-SPAN. Yeah, for a while there. It's funny. Secretary Clinton, Hillary never really entered into that reconciliation.
No.
President Bush, 41, told me once in a classic WASP formulation. He said, "We like Hillary, but we don't know her."
And they don't really care to know her, though. I always got the feeling they didn't want to know her.
Well, there's also remember, 1992, we've all sort of, it feels like ancient history now, or the Peloponnesian War, but that was a rough thing with
Bush and Clinton.
And with Mrs. Bush, right? Hillary was the Wellesley graduate who didn't stay home and bake cookies.
Right.
That was a big
But that was
generational shift.
nothing compared to what this is.
Oh, yeah,
the
that's true.
Bush-Clinton race in 92 compared to Trump-Clinton 2016.
True.
Oh, my God.
But remember, Ross Perot was there, and
and that's why Clinton won.
Well, and Mark Twain said, "History may not repeat itself, but it does rhyme." And so we've had populist billionaires shaking things up before.
All right, John Meacham, everyone, check out his book on the Bush family, and plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along. Donald Trump cutting way back on his national TV interviews. We'll tell you why that's happening. Then looks like California will vote to legalize pot on Tuesday. The unintended consequences may be serious for poor people. We hope you stay tuned for those reports. The next segment tonight, in order to win the presidency, Donald Trump needs about 45% of women to vote for him. Will that happen? You're not analyzed, Dana Perino. Before we get to the women vote,
yes.
You worked for the Bush family. You know them very, very well. Was Mr. Meacham's assessment correct?
Yes, I think it was a larger. I think that if Jeb hadn't even been in the primary and Donald Trump would have emerged as the winner of the Republican nomination, that they still would not have supported.
Is that because of the Iraq criticism and 9/11?
I think it's policy, temperament, character.
But temperament, if Trump had not attacked Jeb Bush, what would be the temperament problem? Most times the Republican establishment gets behind the Republican nominee.
Almost always.
Right.
This is an unusual situation.
Right. But if Trump had not attacked Jeb, I don't know what
and I haven't
temperament
spoken to them specifically about this.
No?
I know that it's not about Jeb.
It's not.
That's what I know.
Okay.
I would also point out that, Donald Trump was working against George W. Bush for a long time, supporting his opponents.
Yeah.
Pelosi, Reid, Clinton.
Well, Trump will tell you
he should have been.
He was a businessman. He was spreading it around.
But still, suggested he should have been impeached. Said that he knew about 9/11 and didn't do anything about it. Dabbles in conspiracy theories. Okay.
All right. So.
But I also think that they've been quiet about it. But they have also. George W. Bush has campaigned a lot for several of the Senate candidates, and it looks like that has helped pay off in places like Ohio and Florida.
For the Senate people?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what about the women now? There's no question that Hillary Clinton's support is declining.
Definitely.
Right? Women part of that equation?
Not exactly. Apparently, it's an re-emergence of the email scandal in the last 10 days. It's not changing minds as it is reaffirming the perception of her anyway. But I do think that Donald Trump, certainly in those states where he's starting to climb back up, as Brit Hume was talking about, there's the national polling that's certainly tightening. But in some of these key battlegrounds, he's doing better, like in New Hampshire.
And Nevada.
Nevada, that's true. I think that Kelly Ayotte will actually help him in New Hampshire as well.
But Kelly Ayotte doesn't really like Trump.
Well, she's had to go back and forth, right? Remember, she's also been attacked by being connected to Trump, and that was one of the reasons that her numbers went down.
And we understand that. But again, women have got to be part of this equation, even in states like New Hampshire and Nevada.
The numbers are super important. I think you pointed out in the intro that you need about 45%.
45 is what you need,
and
right.
Romney had only 44.
Right.
McCain had 43. Bush lost women in 04 by 3. He had 48%, but he still was able to win. So that 45 number is very important.
If Trump gets over 45 with women, I think he'll win. Because he got hammered so badly. But if you look at the gap, the men are up around 58% for Trump.
Well, he underperforms with every group of men except for non-college educated men.
That's a lot of men.
It's a lot of men.
Right.
And you know where they live? Really important battleground states.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I also think that his Hispanic vote will be, or Latino vote will be higher than anticipated, and maybe even higher than Romney's.
Wow.
And partly that's because there's not a monolithic group. Cubans and Puerto Ricans and those descendants are different from
no doubt
other
about
places.
But the monolithic group that everybody's watching is African Americans. Are they going to turn out in the great numbers they did for Barack Obama, which in Pennsylvania, that is going to be the tipping point.
I think they will not turn out in as high a numbers as they did for President Obama, no matter what.
If it's not close, if it's down like 10%, Trump could win Pennsylvania.
And in this last weekend, Barack Obama is campaigning.
Oh, he's everywhere.
In a very important place of North Carolina, as you were just talking about with Brit
He's
Hume.
everywhere. In fact, I thought he was knocking here, but it wasn't him. It was just somebody who looked like
Well, if he came in, I'm sure he'd
we'd love to have the president.
But one thing I want to remind everybody.
Yes.
The last Real Clear Politics average going into Election Day, the last one on like Monday of 2012, before the election, Romney was at 48.1 and Obama was at 48.9 in the average.
Right.
And I think that you're going to see about that average with
Well, we're going to be here Sunday
Trump.
And Monday. You'll be here as well. So we'll
You sound so thrilled.
Yeah,
I will be here.
Are you kidding?
I'll bring sunshine and light to your world.
Well, and Jasper. Right?
I'd love it. If I could bring Jasper, it would be great.
Right. We appreciate it, Dana. I'll tell you a little bit about Jasper. The book is Let Me Tell You About Jasper. And if you let her tell you, she will never shut up. All right? But it is a big bestseller, and you'll like the book, so please check it out. When we come right back, if marijuana is legalized in California, the floodgates open all across the USA, and a recent study says poor minorities may be hurt by that. A robust debate, moments away. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in the Unresolved Problem segment. Tonight, on Tuesday, voters in California will decide whether or not to legalize marijuana. Latest poll out there has 55% supporting legalization, 38% opposed, 6% don't know or are too stoned to answer the question. For voting, Californians might want to consider a new study from the Journal of Drug Issues. It says that households with incomes of less than $20,000 a year, that is very poor, account for 29% of all the marijuana use in the USA. That means people who are struggling are getting stoned at an alarming rate. Here now to discuss it, Eric Bolling of World of Vera. This is a cause. I was reading a column in the New York Times about a poor black child who was extraordinary in school. And the reporter, the columnist, went to the kid's house. And the first thing that they noticed when they walked in was the reek of marijuana throughout the house, all right, and the lack of one single book within the house. Nevertheless, this child was excelling in school. But the column was, what kind of chance does he really have against people with a stable environment? So I see the legalization of marijuana as making it easier for people who are desperate, hopeless, to get hooked on this substance. That's how I see it.
Well, I appreciate that, and it is of great concern, and the statistics are alarming. We need, obviously, as marijuana is legalized, as it certainly will be in this country, I think all 5 of the states, California, Massachusetts, Maine, Arizona, and Nevada, I think that all of them will approve the legalization. So it is obvious that as we legalize, as inevitably we will end reefer madness and the pot
Not in some
prohibition,
states, though.
I think that all 5 will go.
You're not going to get it in the South. Not going to happen.
Well, I'm talking about the 5 that are on the ballot right now.
The 5 there, but look.
Wait, let me finish my point. My point is that what we need, along with that, is an intensive public education campaign to tell people
against tobacco,
because this exactly tracks who is the people that use cigarettes.
Poor people.
Disproportionately, the same people. We must do that, but I have to point out that the real public health hazard to those poor people smoking pot over the last decades has been getting arrested for pot. Almost 10 million of them. Almost 10 million of them in the last decade. That's the real public health crisis. Most of them get a
ticket for it. Now, Bowling, my thing is the real health hazard of pot is the de-incentive, all right, to make something of yourself. And you see it. It's not just pot. It's alcohol, it's hard drugs, and if you're going to lose yourself in this world, all right, you're not going to succeed in our hyper-competitive society.
No, you're not wrong, and Geraldo's not wrong either when he says we need more education, we need more drug rehabilitation and education, and Geraldo's right that as these states do go, California's likely to go, someone has to pay for that education and rehabilitation programs. And what
so let's legalize so we can rehab.
Well, I'll tell you, if you legalize a tax foundation fund, if you legalize every state in the union, you'd raise somewhere around $18 billion in tax revenue alone just from the sale of marijuana.
The social problems in Colorado, particularly, Colorado is a state that's really studied it. Washington, they haven't really done it. The social problems have almost overwhelmed the tax revenue. But what I'm trying to say to you is that the only way this works, and I agree with you that most states are going to legalize marijuana, is if you do a tobacco campaign. And the tobacco is legal in America, but it's like you're an idiot if you do it. Right. You're going to get lung cancer. You're going to have emphysema. Exactly. Your heart's going to give out.
That's the way to do it.
Well, you've got to do that with marijuana because now it's glorified. It's glorified now.
I think the happy happenstance is that all 3 of us agree that we need this massive public education campaign.
I mean, if you're going to say bad things about marijuana, maybe somebody would listen because look at you. Say, look, I could have been O'Reilly. I could have succeeded like O'Reilly if I hadn't smoked pot. And it'll have me and him.
I have a news bulletin. I swear to God this is true. Guess who called me just before the show? Cheech called me.
Of course.
Because he
needed some weed.
Cheech is playing in Huntington. Cheech is playing in Huntington in your neighborhood. Yeah. I said, why don't you invite O'Reilly? And they said, no, wait a second. O'Reilly's the only guy I know that never tried pot.
That's right. I mean, I'm not a druggie. But then we could put you and me and Cheech together and say, who do you want to be?
That's right.
All right? All right. Last word, Bowling.
The last word is that, at the same level, that income level under 30,000, 45% of the people who are at that level drink alcohol as well.
The binge
drinkers are the upper incomes. It's a bad. It's illegal, and we haven't made alcohol illegal. We have an education program.
Did, but we're never going to get out of poverty ever if you get into substance.
But you'd rather have them smoking in their mother's basement than in jail with us paying.
I don't want them in jail. I've always said that, but I want society to say it's not a good thing. Gentlemen, thank you. Donald Trump on deck. But he's not here because he's not really talking to national media this week. We will find out why and have a brand new Fox News poll number that may surprise you. Right back. Back in the book segment tonight, The Factor has learned that the Trump campaign has pulled back their candidate from doing national TV interviews. The question is why. Joining us now from Los Angeles, Justin Wallen, media strategist, and from Washington, Michael Maslansky, independent pollster. So first of all, the new Fox News poll just out today has Clinton up by 2, 45-43 over Trump, but that's a tie with the margin of error. So the strategy, even though Trump has been on the ascent since October 15th, all right, and he did do some interviews, couple with me, couple with Hannity, and it seemed to be working, his strategy, Mr. Maslansky, of doing selected interviews of people he knew he was going to get a fair shake with, but now he's not doing any. Is that smart?
Yeah, I think it is smart. I mean, his own worst enemy is still himself. And whether he did a couple of good interviews or not, if you go out and talk to the media, then you're unscripted and you lose control. And his campaign has been trying to keep him under control since Kellyanne Conway joined. So I think that's one good reason to do it. Right now, the story is all about Hillary Clinton and the FBI. And so why get in the way of that? And ultimately, you've got undecideds out there. Anybody who hasn't made their decision yet doesn't like either candidate, and they're deciding who to hold their nose for and
not show up at all.
Or not show up at all.
Do you feel the same way, Mr. Wallen?
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't. I get that. I get the argument, and it makes a heck of a lot of sense. Trump is his own worst enemy, and Team Trump is terrified, and it should keep them up at night if he's going to make an unforced error and say something wacky. I mean, what he said is the source of all problems, including the internecine warfare we see in the Republican Party. However, the one advantage that Donald Trump has in terms of his campaign is simply this: earned media. He's gotten billions of dollars of it, and he doesn't have the campaign funding that Hillary Clinton does have. He doesn't have the ground game that she has. The one thing he's got is that ability to generate news.
But he gets it anyway.
Well, he hasn't really gotten it anyway, because as Mr. Wallen pointed out, it's been Hillary Clinton who's generated the news because of the FBI thing. But here's the one thing I want you both to consider. Mitt Romney went to ground the last week of his campaign because he thought he won. And Mitt Romney was not a guy that made a lot of unforced errors. We offered him a full hour here the night before the debate, the night before the election, 2012. All right, he passed. He didn't want to answer any questions. He thought he had it won. I'm not sure that the Trump campaign thinks it has it won, although they are on the ascent. But I'm not sure whether this is a good strategy or not, because Donald Trump is his own best salesman, Mr. Maslansky.
Yeah, but I don't think that he is his best salesman anymore. If you look at the last 2 months of the campaign since the debates, the candidate that's been in the spotlight has dropped in the polls. And so right now there is an opportunity for him to take a step back, let things play out on the Hillary front, and see what happens. I don't think he's got any ability to introduce new people to a positive message about his campaign at this point. We've all seen everything that there is to see on the positive front.
Listen, that's certainly a legitimate point. Mr. Wallen, I'll give you the last word on it. Go.
Well, I mean, to his point, I mean, Nate Silver said back in May that if the Cubbies won, then it would be Donald Trump being the president. But I would say he has to punt. He's close, but he's not close enough. And he needs to take that gamble, because without it, he can't rely on gravity pulling down Hillary Clinton to where she needs to be.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. And we will tell everybody that we have invited both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on this program Monday evening. And we do the whole program with both of them if they show, and we'll see what happens. If one does, we'll give him or her the time. Back to tip of the day. Remember that song, Happy? Well, the guy who sings it, not really happy about the election. The tip will tell you why moments away. In fact, the tip of the day, even the guy who sang the song Happy is not happy over the election in a moment. First, a great weekend to pick up tickets for the Spin Stops Here shows in 2017. As you may know, we have added Waters to Miller and Me, and we'll see everybody in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Reading, Pennsylvania, Omaha, Nebraska, Tacoma, Washington, Westbury, Long Island. All details on BillO'Reilly.com, and we will even link you to the box offices. Now, tickets are going fast. They will sell out. They make great Christmas and Hanukkah gifts, which is why we're putting them out there now, so if you want to do that and get a chance to pick them up. Now, the Mail, Maureen Brennan, Aurora, Colorado. I don't understand why there is an outrage that Hillary Clinton's aide, Huma Abedin, was working for the State Department and the Clinton Foundation at the same time. Ms. Abedin was given the status of, quote, special government employee, unquote, which allowed her to double dip. Jeff Tedrick, Somerville, South Carolina. Bill, you are the most naive person in the world if you don't know why Hillary Clinton will not do an interview with you. When Trump's your guest, you hammer him worse than the FBI did with Hillary. Mr. Trump survived the chats in fine fashion here, Jeff. So did Mrs. Clinton back in 2008. Jim Maxidon, Tracy, California. Justice Department official giving John Podesta a heads up about a congressional questioning is corrupt. But Rudy Giuliani delivering FBI information to Fox News isn't? That's just desperate, Jim. Desperate. The mayor's a private citizen. If he has information, he has a right to state it. A government official whose salary is paid for by you and me has no right to secretly play politics. Good grief. Dr. Sal Matola, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. I believe the factor covering who the Bushes are supporting will have a negative effect on Donald Trump. Please reconsider. We don't select stories based upon who they will help or hurt, Doctor. Come on. We select stories based on news value. Limang, Xiaomen, China. I believe the election of Trump would indicate that traditional American values and the market economy will be upheld. Way to go, Lee. Nice to hear that from China. Juan Carlos Garcia, Dominican Republic. Trump supporters are electoral rebels who will turn out to vote. I don't believe Clinton supporters will do that to the same extent. We will see. Elizabeth Madden, Georgetown, Indiana. O'Reilly, you stated long ago that this election would be the most vicious of our lifetime, and you were right. Fred Borjali, Flushing, Michigan. Today is the 95th birthday of Jim Jarvis, the second oldest survivor of the USS Indianapolis sinking. Well, happy birthday, Jim. You know, we write about that harrowing experience the sailors had on the Indy in killing the rising sun. Every American should know that story. You may have heard it, where the sailors had to jump off the ship, which was torpedoed, and sharks started to attack them. We go into great detail about why that happened and what happened afterward in the book. Richard Parian, Auburn, New Hampshire. Rising Sun brought me to tears. One of the best books ever. Well, I appreciate it. That is it for us tonight. Please check out the Fox News Factor website, different from BillO'Reilly.com. Please spout off about the Factor anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com, O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. Name it down if you wish to opine. Word of the day, do not be truculent when writing to the Factor. We'll see you Sunday Night Live. We'll see you Monday Night Live. We have a podcast on BillO'Reilly.com, which some people are predicting the election. And I'd like you to go to the website and get all kinds of good stuff. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Please remember that the spin stops here. So we're definitely looking out for you. Very intense for this country. On the other side, Donald Trump, who has been accessible to us, is not experienced in dealing with complicated geopolitical matters. If elected, he would have to rely heavily on advisors. And we do not know whether Mr. Trump would listen to them or not. So at this point, whoever is elected president will enter the office as the most unpopular victor in history. There's simply too much bitterness for it to evaporate in a matter of weeks. Talking points respect sincerely held beliefs, even those that go against my conscience. But we are not seeing that kind of respect in this campaign, are we? Here's a vivid example. Last week, the Catholic Diocese of Rockville Center, where I live on Long Island, issued a very heartfelt letter on abortion. While the bishop did not take a political side, he clearly states that anyone who would support taking the life of a late-term baby for anything other than the life of the mother is participating in a grave injustice. The bishop and every other cleric in this country have a perfect right to state that position without being attacked or scorned. Hillary Clinton's position is that any late-term abortion should be accepted.
Team with the networks that have agreed that it will be private information about the exit polls. And remember, these are polls taken when voters exit the polling booths.
Okay, let me stop you there.
And then they tell them or don't.
So this is an agreement. There's not a law that says we can't report it when we get it. It's just an agreement All the networks do this. All the radio stations do this. They all agree not to let it out until the polls close. Is that it?
Yeah, it's a consortium, and you can't use the information until the polls close.
But you say can't. It's not illegal if you did. If you went rogue and decided to do it, you wouldn't be prosecuted or anything, would you?
No, it's an agreement that everybody agrees to. I mean, it's not.
So the people that actually canvass, they're standing outside certain polling places that are designated, and they ask people, and if they don't want to participate, people don't have to. It's a voluntary thing. Who did you vote for? Why did you vote that way? Blah, 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 blah. Then that gets sent, I guess, by email or something to election headquarters here in New York City, correct?
Right, and where there is a sequestered group from each one of the networks and the major media organizations, and they get that data, they compile it, they look at the different aspects of it, you know, who is Republican, who's Democrat, which way did they vote, and where their demographics fall. And they come up with...
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Tuesday cannot come fast enough. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Poll by CBS News says 82% of Americans are disgusted. That's the word they use. Disgusted with the presidential campaign. Just 13% are excited by it. Who are those people? Pretty much everyone I know can't wait till the whole thing's over. Yes, there's a lot at stake, but all the negativity has not been good for the country.
Hillary Clinton is engaged in far-reaching criminal conduct and in an equally far-reaching criminal cover-up, including the destruction of 33,000 emails after receiving, after. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if I did that? Oh, that alone is big problems, for which she got away with murder. Honestly, she has no right to be running.
Just a few days ago, Donald Trump was endorsed by the official newspaper of the Ku Klux Klan. They wrote their endorsement under the slogan of his campaign, "Make America Great Again." They said it's about preserving white identity, and they've placed their faith and hope in him.
Now, to be fair, Donald Trump has nothing to do with the Ku Klux Klan. And Hillary Clinton has not been charged with anything yet. Now, there is a tradition of nasty presidential campaigns in America going all the way back to John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson. But in this hyper-computer age where internet smears dominate the discourse, critical mass has now been reached. There's no question both candidates despise each other and that many Americans are angry about the state of their country. All of that negative emotion can be very destructive. Talking Points has tried to cover the campaigns in a fair way, and I believe we have succeeded. We do not cheap shot the candidates, but we do not shy away from telling you the truth about them. My analysis of the recent Al Smith dinner here in New York City is a good example of that. For those of you who watch this program, you know what we believe, and that is that many far-left policies are damaging the country, and that the Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, is embracing some of those policies. My problem with Mrs. Clinton is twofold. She's not candid in her assessment of herself, and she has veered sharply to the left. If Americans allow her to nominate a Supreme Court justice, things could get acceptable if the mother's health is in some kind of jeopardy. But as we all know, health could mean anything, which is why there are laws against late-term abortion. And Mrs. Clinton's position is extreme, but has gone relatively unnoticed. Finally, we never endorse candidates here. We never tell you for whom to vote. We also understand that this campaign has been awful for the spirit of the nation. There's no question about it. And that's the memo. Now for the top story covering the final days of the campaign. Join us from Washington, Brett Baer. So a lot of people have questions about the process. So we're going to be here Sunday night live. You're going to be live Sunday night. You're not allowed to go home now until Wednesday. Is that right? You have to stay there. Yeah, okay.
I'm in New York starting tomorrow.
That means I'm going to leave then. No. I'll be here Sunday night and Monday night. I'll do a little something on Election Day. But that's your and Kelly. You guys take it. So let's start with exit polling. All right, Fox News has a big operation, right? In selected states. We can't be in every state, but we have we're pinpointing certain states. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's the key battleground states, and we have exit polling, which we will be monitoring throughout the day, but it is sequestered. In other words, we have people,